Good afternoon and welcome to Conversations on Showing Up for Kids. My name's Tim Markle. I'm director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs. We cover 14 counties in southern and southwest Wisconsin, helping to connect parents to resources and to champions who want to support their families and their children in this journey. Conversations on Showing Up for Kids is designed to be a space where we can learn more together as parents of children with special health care needs and learn about the resources that might be out there or anything of interest. You just never know what may pop up. And today I am really excited because I have been working now with the Weisman Center for 13 years. And for all 13 of those years, I have been acquainted with and have been working with this fantastic parent-led organization called Family Voices of Wisconsin. And today we have Danielle Tolzmann of Family Voices of Wisconsin. I'm going to let her introduce herself, a little bit about who she is and what she does for Family Voices. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what Family Voices does and specifically around the areas of leadership and advocacy, because they got some really cool things happening this year that we want to make sure everybody knows about. Danielle, it is so good to see you.
You too, Tim. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Danielle Tolzmann. I'm the Policy and Family Leadership Coordinator for Family Voices of Wisconsin. And I'd like to share a little bit about Family Voices, what we do, why we do it, and some of the family leadership opportunities that are coming up.
That sounds great. Well, let's just go ahead and I'm going to let you get into it about who y'all are.
Fantastic. Thank you. Family Voices has been around for more than 25 years, really focusing on education for families of children and youth with special health care needs, access to resources, and policy. We are the federally recognized family-to-family health information center for Wisconsin. All of us on staff are parents of children and young adults with special health care needs or medical complexity. I think it's really important to recognize that Family Voices does not do this work alone. We partner with multiple organizations on many different projects all the time, including the regional centers and Tim's fabulous team. And it's through the collective work of all of these groups that we're able to support Wisconsin families in a meaningful way. Working together is really important to our work because we really feel strongly that that's how families are served best.
So I know I promised that I would let you go on and try not to interrupt you too much, but I just recently, in conversations that I've been having with families, have again been reminded about how siloed parts of our system still are, and that partners that families would assume talk to each other, interact with each other, maybe even refer to each other, aren't doing it very well. And so then it seems like it's sometimes up to the families to figure out where else they're supposed to go. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about the network that we work in, is that we want our other partners involved if it's for the good of that family. We want to make sure that family has access to those resources, to those organizations, to those families that are going to help them on their journey.
Absolutely, Tim. And the siloing of services and resources is certainly something that we touch on in our information sessions and in our leadership programs. I think that it's important for all of these partnering organizations. We all do a great job of knowing, I can't help this family with this, but I know who can, and facilitating those warm handoffs, those warm connections. When we have children with special health care needs or medical complexity, our lives are filled with other things that we would rather be focusing our efforts and energies on, not on navigating complicated resource systems. So we're really glad that we're in a position to help facilitate that. And of course, grateful for the partnership of the regional centers to accomplish that. And this really is a really nice segue into the principles that guide us in the work that we do. And what we do is really driven by these principles, and that are one of them, of course, is that children are children first. And we hold that to the center of our work. We feel that families have the capacity to care for their children and make the right decisions for them with the right information to do that in an informed way. Also, that we recognize that the unique culture of all different types of families needs to be honored, and that families are best served when they are seen as partners in the decision-making process for their kids and their families. As far as what we do, education and training is a large part of our work. I mentioned earlier about the importance of families being able to make those informed decisions for their kids and my kids, and that's really where our role is. We offer workshops around the state, both in person or online, and some of the most popular topics have an abbreviated version that is also parked on our website, so they can be accessed at any time. One of the most popular sessions is Did You Know? Now You Know, and which is an overview of resources and supports for families. Myself, I went to that session twice, too many years ago. And both times I left with a hidden gem or a resource I didn't know about before that I was able to utilize immediately. So I have a personal attachment to that one. Another popular session is What's After High School, covering that important transition time and what parents can expect. Medicaid Made Easy covers everything from eligibility to the types of services parents can anticipate. And a newer session covers supported decision-making as an alternative to guardianship for parents to consider in making those important decisions.
And I just want to mention that Southern Regional Center excitingly partners for all of those trainings with Family Voices, is that we find that they are so valuable in giving information to our families that they would have trouble finding in other places if they were able to find it at all. And the best part is the information is delivered by other family members who understand what families are going through. They understand how we don't need any more legalese, weird state type governmental terms. We need to understand what it means for our families and what we can do. So I really appreciate those trainings and look forward to doing more in 2023.
And us as well, Tim. Thank you for that. I think that we really take a lot of pride in providing meaningful workshops, and families are kind enough to give us their time away from their families oftentimes to kind of invest in gathering that information. We work really hard to make the best possible use of that time and that investment that parents are making in us and in that information. Speaking of which, to continue on, when it comes to information, we have a really comprehensive library of fact sheets. They're printable, and some are also on video, covering everything from medical home to ABLE accounts to medical prior authorizations, to getting coverage for supplies like diapers and what to do if there's a denial, if something doesn't quite go the way that you think it should. We do keep everyone in the loop on things through quarterly newsletters and website resources, including a resource library that is searchable for whatever you might need. Another way we support families is with the coordination of the Circles of Life conference in the spring. This year's theme is Treasure Today, Plan for Tomorrow, and is open to parents and professionals. Registration isn't open yet, but will be soon. And if you'd like to be in the loop on when that happens, your best bet is to sign up for the email newsletter via the website, or to connect with us on Facebook, or more recently, we joined Instagram. So you can find us in all those places. We've really been stepping up our work in family leadership in a few ways. Family leadership is best explained with an example. I think family programs and services don't work better for families just by happenstance. They need a force for good on the inside to push and pull, to make things change, to make things run better, or to be more accessible. For example, many years ago, and some of you might recognize this mom's story, a family in Iowa had a daughter that required continuous ventilation, which at that time, I think this was in the 80s, it meant she needed to be in the hospital 24/7 all the time. And her mom really wanted her to come home and knew that with a little bit of support, she could care for her daughter at home. And so she advocated to her local leaders and then went right up the chain to her federal leaders. And one of those individuals, I think it was a senator, shared her story with the president, who was able to get something done and make the change that this family had been asking for. So she could care for her daughter at home. And that change resulted in tens of thousands of families being able to do the same thing. Many Wisconsin families benefit from this change today. And of course, I'm talking about Katie Beckett and her advocate mom, Julie. That's just an example where one mom stepped forward and got that going. And another example that's a little closer to home, there was some legislation passed a few years ago about the use of seclusion and restraint at school. And those changes were made possible because of the ongoing advocacy of a core group of engaged parents. Family leadership is essentially the extension of advocacy that a lot of us parents are already doing. We advocate for our kids at IEP meetings, at the clinic, in our neighborhoods, and family leadership extends that advocacy out into the world. So you aren't just making things better for your kiddo, but for all kids. Family Voices is investing in this area, knowing that what we call systems change takes the effort of many parents getting out there as champions. And that's where Advocacy for Change and the Family Leadership Institute really come in. Advocacy for Change, this has been taking place for several years. It's in Madison, coming up soon, actually, March 16th. It's a one-day event that gets families prepared and then connects them with their legislators to talk about their experiences with programs and services. We'll be reviewing the state budget process that morning, giving some briefings on some important things like the caregiver crisis, special education and mental health, and the ongoing wait in some counties, unfortunately, to access children's long-term support resources. We'll go over methods for developing your message and sharing your story. And then parents will meet with their legislator to talk about these issues or whatever else parents might be concerned about. So if there's something parents are passionate about, this really is the best time to talk with your legislator as we're going into the next budget cycle. And of course, all great programs need to be funded, right?
Right. And I can remember a time, Danielle, where if you told me that even with like my state legislator, okay, you're going to go in and you're going to talk to your state legislator, that I would have sat there and said, oh, no, I'm really not. That is so not what I want to do. I don't feel like they want to hear from me. Matter of fact, there was probably a time where I didn't even know who my state legislator was. Now, through Advocacy for Change, you're going to help parents who were just at that position that I was in a long time ago.
We certainly
Even if they're in that position, they are welcome to be here and you will help them.
Yes, that's exactly right. One of the elements that I really like about Advocacy for Change going into those legislative visits is we actually have a legislator come in and talk to the group about the value of that constituent input and that it does matter that they do listen. And even if they themselves aren't available to meet, if their staff meet with parents, they do still hear about those conversations and about those asks and about what families are looking for and how some of these programs and systems could serve them better. That's their job. That's what these legislators are there for.
And if a parent has a family, doesn't even know who their legislator is, will you help connect them to their legislator?
We sure will. We certainly will. We certainly will. In fact, we set up appointments with those legislators in advance to let them know that they can expect a visitor or visitors. So certainly too, in some of the areas closer to Madison, there may be a small group who will be going to visit together. So there's comfort in numbers, and so certainly they won't be alone.
Fantastic. I love the program and look forward to it every year.
Well, thanks for that endorsement. I do want to add that this program is geared for parents as advocates for their younger kids. Families that are looking to include their teens or adults in legislative advocacy, they might want to consider Disability Advocacy Day, which is just a week after Advocacy for Change. Tis the season. And that is put on in part by the Board for People with Developmental Disabilities, or BPDD, as we call them. For AFC, we do keep the group pretty small, and it is getting filled up, but we still have some seats open. So if parents would like to do that, they should sign up as soon as possible so we can be sure to hold a seat for them.
And how much will it cost a family to attend Advocacy for Change to be a part of that?
That is a great question. I do believe that there is a fee for those who are able to, but it is also offered on full scholarship for those who prefer that.
Who need that. So that shouldn't be a barrier to families getting involved in advocacy.
Exactly. The goal is not to generate revenue from this activity. It's to get parents involved and engaged and get those conversations going.
Absolutely, because they're really, in all my years, I haven't found any hotel who sits there and says, "Hey, Tim, could you bring in a group that you don't have to pay for and we'll feed them?" I have yet to have that happen. So there's always expenses involved.
There is, and we're grateful to funders who find this topic of importance as well and worth investing in. So we're glad that with their support, we're able to offer Advocacy for Change, and that we're able to offer our Leadership Institute. For the Family Leadership Institute, or as we call it, We Fly, because we do, the goal is to give parents the tools needed to get plugged into their communities and leadership roles. And this is a leadership series. So it's a series of workshops, but the roles that parents could step into after coming to We Fly could be joining community groups like the Madtown Mamas, or joining a committee of the Autism Society or their local Boys and Girls Club. Bringing that advocate voice and family experience to the decision-making table changes the way these programs and systems operate. This year, we're offering 2 versions of We Fly. Foundations actually starts later this week. It gives parents the starting blocks of leadership. We'll be talking about how boards and committees function, what different titles mean, that all important, how to identify your allies and those resistors when you're making an advocacy effort. We'll talk about storytelling and how to use stories like the one I shared earlier about Katie Beckett, and how to use that in advocacy. We talk about group dynamics, understanding how groups work together, how they can work well, and what to do when things don't work as well, and how to find value in ideas that are different than our own. Foundations is full for this year, but we will be offering it again next year.
Awesome.
This fall, we're offering a part 2 to We Fly, or for those whose parents have already had some leadership experience. So We Fly Advanced, which is going to take a deeper dive for those with some experience on things like more strategies for working through conflict, some of the different philosophies in leadership, like servant leadership, imposter syndrome, and some of those meatier topics. Advanced hasn't been scheduled yet, but we're planning for the Fox Valley area probably in the late fall. And if I can, Tim, I want to share 2 quick examples of some of the things that our last cohort of We Fly participants are working on.
Absolutely, because we know that, there's some people that they go and they attend and they just have to get involved. That's why they started it. They want to make change. They want to make a difference. Sometimes you go through and you're like, yes, I want to make a change, a difference. And then something happens in your family. You're like, okay, maybe in a couple months. But sometimes we have that space and we just go for it.
Yeah. Yep. And even when we don't have that space right now, that's okay, because at some point down the road, you're going to carry this information with you. And so when the right opportunity presents, you'll have the tools you need to jump right in. For one parent, after We Fly, she volunteered to talk in front of a large group about her family's experience and how that program could have served them better. Afterward, she said a city administrator was in the audience and came up to her and offered her a role in a committee where she is, in fact, now helping to make those changes happen. It was completely, she didn't know that this person was going to be in the audience, but they were. The right opportunity came up at the right time, and now she's involved and offering the input and experience of her family. For another parent, they have a son that developed a close relationship over the years with a community law enforcement officer. And now the 2 of them are working together to develop a series of community events to help build relationships between community police and youth with special health care needs. What really excites me about this work is the ripple effect it has. Maria, the first mom I mentioned, did one small thing. She got in front of a group, and now she's at the decision-making table to improve the programs in her area. And Autumn, she's building relationships between youth and police, which is something we can all get really excited about. And those are just 2 examples of why I truly love doing this work.
That is fantastic. And I love those examples because it starts with where the family's at. It's not taking them somewhere else and say, well, what about that? But it's, what are you interested in? Where are you at? What change do you want to see making based on your life? Because it's those personal experiences that really can help us get involved in our passions.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
All right. Well, thank you, Danielle. Really appreciate it. Excited to hear that. Well, excited and kind of sad, I guess, that We Fly Foundations is full, but that shows that you're on the road to something great. And that's really exciting.
Well, thank you for that. And despite foundations being full, I do want to mention that if anyone out there has a great idea, something they want to do, an improvement they want to make, and they're looking for a little bit of guidance, a jumping off point to get started, send me an email, give me a call. I'm glad to provide support, mentoring, brainstorming, whatever anyone, frankly, in our community might need or be looking for to help give those great ideas some traction. I see all the time on Facebook where someone says, golly, I wish there was a such and such, that there was this program or that program. And I find myself often being the first one to say, you can do that. You can do, you can do that. You don't necessarily have to wait for somebody else. So I like to certainly support families and parents to get engaged, to turn these great ideas and thought bubbles into real stuff. So that gets me up in the morning. That gets me excited.
And that's what Family Voices has done for years. It's taken those thought bubbles and turned them into action. And so being there to support other families doing it, you've been there. You've been through a couple of hurdles. You've solved a couple of problems,
Yes.
but you've also formed a couple of relationships and a couple of partnerships. And you may be able to help someone connect with the group that they may not have even known had the same sort of passion, because we do like to do things better together.
We do. And it's not just us in our organization at We Fly. We found that over time, the parents that were in the groups started gravitating towards each other. They started, arriving for the next session early so they could go to dinner together, so they could connect in the pool and just reconnect. I myself saw one parent offer who said that they knew that there was a parent who was interested in a certain topic who was in the We Fly class, and they were at a resource fair, saw a brochure about that topic, picked it up and shared it with them. Yes. Wow. So this networking and these connections happen on every level. And we're just excited to be in the room when those things happen.
Well, and that's the thing, is it takes someone to bring people together. And I know that a while ago, there was this whole phrase, leading by convening. And I think the phrase itself got a little too kitschy, but the truth behind that phrase is really true, is the fact that there needs to be somebody who takes the responsibility to bring people together. And that can make the whole difference for families. So often we feel like we're doing things alone when we really don't have to, that there are other people out there that will support us. There's other people that have been through it. There's other people that will just listen to us, but somebody has to bring those groups together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we're excited to be one of several organizations that do that.
Exactly. Well, I thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that Family Voices is doing. I think we have enough to go forward right now. I'm looking forward to seeing you. I'll see you in March. I'll see you at Circles of Life.
You will.
I will just continue to interact with Family Voices. So thank you again, Danielle, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.